the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth kind of love. It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the true kind of love.
I knew firsthand that once I get into these episodes of Future, we're gonna be reaching to Steven being selfish, which I would agree with the fanbase on what they feel about Steven's character. But at the same time, knowing forward that Steven's development was a lot more complicated in the original, I think it's honestly difficult for him to be developed as a selfish character in this series. And considering that in one of my chapters in Steven Universe of the Quick-Well, I have him almost punched Eliza, believe me, what else do you want him to be selfish? But let's get into that later. In this episode, Amethyst did a good job by having the little homeschool gems have jobs at Beach City, and judging of how things have been working out for them, Steven thinks otherwise. And in all honesty, when it comes to the critiques of how Steven was developed in Future, with this being the prime examples of him being stupid, I'm gonna be really real with you that every time I look at Steven in this predicament, he still didn't went to school, and with him running a school, it isn't the same way as an ordinary school. It's a stupid defense, but let me just say, if Steven did all of the jobs that the gems did in this episode, mainly before this episode happened, then I would probably see him more stupid knowing how complicated everything is. And believe me, with the amount of times that Steven had broke equipment at Beach City and the amusement park Funland, and this leads to him trying to repair the damages, I'm pretty sure that if anyone were in his shoes, they would probably remember quickly due to their experiences at school. And since that Steven never went to school, it really feels like that everything that he caused in this episode is trying too hard, while Amethyst did everything perfectly fine. And since that this is around the time where Amethyst has matured more, I really got the impression that with Steven telling Amethyst that she was mature was literally his way of thinking of what he would have done if he can do something better than Amethyst, which kind of sums up the people's critiques on him being stupid. But the way I see it, it really feels like that he wants to contribute something in order to have that contribution, if that's a word, forever. Like I said, with him having a future that is unknown in comparison to the other characters' futures, this really gave me the impression that he is literally trying in order to be with Amethyst a little longer, but at the same time, there's no escaping. And whenever they attempt to have Steven rethink about his choices, I really feel like that this is just him having a midlife crisis of some sort, even though that his trauma hasn't gotten into play yet. Yes, he still has his glowing powers that were revealed in the last episode, which does contribute something of Pink Diamond's powers, but we're gonna get to that information once we get into the volleyball episode in the next 2 days. Am I defending Steven's character a tad too much in this? Yes, especially since that he had a gem flying Andy's plane, even though it was a terrible idea, which it's honestly one of the stupidest ideas that I've seen in any other cartoon. But at the same time, I really feel like that he seriously needs to find ways in order to keep his life forever, for the sake of being around with characters who he got used to the most. Granted, it is going to be difficult to know more about the information in the following episodes, but this is the type of development that makes me think of what Steven is really thinking when he got older and older, and when it comes to Amethyst being more smarter and more safety hazardous in comparison to how she was in the past. I'll admit that this episode should have been better executed, but at the same time, I don't consider this as one of the worst episodes, even though that people may have mixed opinions on how this episode should have been like by having Steven's character being handled much more better. This is also the episode where Steven's new ability gives him speed while being in the fusion with Amethyst, and I don't have a problem with that. In fact, it kind of shows that he can actually do things done quickly and do everything right, but at the same time, knowing for what the other abilities are gonna come into play, I'm gonna be mixed on those, considering that they're a lot more complicated, especially Steven's battle against Jasper in Fragments. I'm aware that he is powerful, there's no need to mention it. It's just that there's always a limit on being too powerful. I'm giving this episode a 6.75 out of 10.